Hello, it's me again. Oh, and this time we have a special friend. This is Bearheart, my little traveling buddy, my emotional support buddy, and sometimes, like today, a pain in the butt. Been crying and crying. Not quite sure exactly if it's the wind that's bothering him, because there's no rain today, but it kind of ties in to this part of the story. Because you see, I have a lot of people that have asked me over the years, what did you do to become a shaman? I didn't do anything. It was not on my to-do list. So I did not go to a weekend seminar and then come out and say, I'm a shaman. No, you're chosen by the spirits. It usually runs in the lineage. And in my case, it probably is on the father's side, as he's Native American or was. He's no longer with us. And Spanish. But who knows? It could have come from part of the birth mother side as well, because she has a lot of the England and stuff in her, and a little bit of Scottish, I think. So who knows? And then, of course, as the soul that's in the body now, it came in with me. So I didn't do anything. I didn't go looking for it. But as I've been going through these stories and looking back, there's definitely a pattern. Because what spirit does when they know you've chosen the path on the other side, and it's your duty, your service to humanity to continue doing it in this lifetime, they set up initiations. They test you to see if you've learned the lesson so far, and then they put you through an initiation that will lead to the next chapter, which of course they teach you more, they put you through more initiations, and it just keeps going on. And one of the first people that ever recognized it in me was Sonia Choquet. I met her years and years ago. I was in Serge's weekly shamanic classes that we had at his house. And one of the girls that was there had bought a ticket. I think it was a 3-day event to listen to Shakti Gawain was there, Sonia Choquet, Dr. Judith Orloff, and Sally Redfield. Well, she couldn't go the final day. So she asked me during our Tuesday night class if it's something I would be interested in taking over that last day. And if so, when she went, she would let them know that I was going to be attending in her place. So I was like, sure. I mean, what the heck? It's like, I already had Judith Orloff's book. I had read most of Sally Redfield's husband's books, the Celestine Prophecy and Shambhala and a lot of these other ones that he wrote. And I had been following Sonia for a while and some of Shakti's stuff, and I actually ended up buying her book, one of her books. But after the day was over, we got to go up and meet them and talk to them. And Sonia actually bent down and like she was going to kiss my feet, and it made me very uncomfortable. And it's happened to me several times since then. It always makes me uncomfortable because she recognized in me something that I didn't recognize yet myself. And she said, I honor you. You are on the most difficult path that a soul can choose. And I just kind of looked at her and like, say, what? And she goes, as you continue your studies with your mentor, you'll learn what I mean. Little did I know how accurate she was. Now, outside of Fountain Hills in Arizona, on the way up to Payson on Highway 807, is a mountain range. Beautiful. And I could see it, of course, from my townhouse. And it was called it's still called Four Peaks. And it had 4 very distinct peaks on it. And you could hike up one side of it, and the other side was closed because it was also actually an amethyst mine. And I had gone hiking up there once before with Shannon, a friend of mine, and somebody that I also worked at A Piece of the Universe with. And we had a blast. We were goofing off. We found a rock that looked like, well, we're not going to discuss what it looked like, but it was very kind of embarrassing. But Shannon wanted a picture with it, so we took a picture with it. And she's like, oh my God, yeah. And so when Spirit told me I needed to go back up the mountain and I needed to take somebody with me to witness or be there when it happened, Shannon was the first person I thought of, because she was also in Serge's ministry program. And we had already hiked the mountain once, so we kind of knew what to expect. But in my mind, I thought Spirit wanted somebody with me because something was going to happen. Like maybe because there were mountain lions in that mountain range. There had been bear sightings. And I'm like, oh my God, is there going to be like an attack? Whatever. You know how that ego, again, runs wild. But she was all up for it because she was like, ooh, we had so much fun the last time. Let's go. So we went on a Sunday. Now, I was all ready to say no way, because it had been raining on and off through the weekend. And Sunday, even before she got there, it was sprinkling on and off. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go out to the mountain, because again, you're in a mountain, higher up elevation, it's probably going to be raining a little bit harder than it is down below. And she's like, no, come on, let's go. We're going to have fun, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. So we headed off to Four Peaks. And by the time you get to, you start here, but as you drive back closer to the mountain, it's a very gradual incline. So by the time you get up to the parking spots, you're pretty much halfway up the mountain anyway. And it's a very rough ride. So we took my car because it was bigger, heavier than hers. And I was still looking at the weather. The clouds were a little thicker once we got to the mountain, but there were people on the mountain. There were tons of cars there, people going in, up and down, coming out. And it was raining a little bit harder, but it was still just like sprinkling, But I grabbed my umbrella and I grabbed a blanket, because Shannon was a very tiny, she was like a fairy in a human body, very tiny, very high-pitched voice, and like 4'10". I mean, she was very tiny, hardly any meat on her bones at all. So I took a blanket just in case it got colder as we walked up the mountain. So we got partway up, and the rain started a little harder. So we kind of gathered in a spot, and you could tell it was closer to where the mine was, because there was actually the mine shafts where the air would come in and out. And when you talked into them, you could hear the echo as it goes down inside the mine. And I got out the umbrella. I put the blanket around her to keep her warm. And I kept asking my guides, can we turn around and go back? And they were like, no. And they're like, you need to keep going up the mountain. And I'm like, well, I don't like that answer. So Shannon, you ask your guides to see what they say. Because if they said, yeah, turn around, go back, I was like, screw what my guide said. We were listening to hers. Well, her master guide was Isis. So she tapped in and she asked Isis, do we need to still continue going up the mountain? I didn't like the answer because Isis said, yes, you both need to continue up the mountain. And I was like, dang, I thought I was going to get around it. So we got up, started heading up higher up the mountain. The rain started in earnest, and then the hail came down. I'm telling you, hail hurts when you're not covered up in a blanket. Because, like I said, she was covered in the blanket. All I had was the umbrella. And then I didn't have that because the wind picked up. At least at that point, it was like 50-mile-an-hour winds. I think they got a little stronger as we went higher. My umbrella didn't last long. It broke, and then it turned inside out. And it was like, oh, I'm wet. What the heck? And I asked again, Spirit, can we turn around, go home, go back now? No, continue up the mountain. So we did. And we kept going up and going up farther in the hail, in the rain, in the wind. And then all of a sudden, I heard loud and clear, like the person was standing right next to me. And he said, when we say push and jump, we mean push and jump. Like, that didn't scare me. And I was like, Shannon, did you hear that? And she's like, no, what? And I said, I was just told that when I hear them say push and jump, I am to push you off to the left and jump right after you. And she was like, okay, are you sure? And I said, yeah, because they repeated it. And I said, at this point, I don't think I need to be questioning what they're saying. So we went a little farther up the mountain, and it was a very windy trail going up the mountain. And like when you look down one side, it was like straight down. No guardrails, no nothing. If you slipped and fell in the rain, you were down. It was that kind of a mountain. So we continued going up, and I'm like, we got to be pretty close to the top because, we were already halfway there when we parked the car. And then all of a sudden, now, push, jump. I shoved Shannon off to my left, and I jumped right behind her. And right where I had been standing, a bolt of lightning hit. Talk about the electricity going out. My hair stood up on end. I had goosebumps from head to toe. And then I turned around to look and make sure Shannon was okay. And I'm like, Shannon, where'd she go? Because she wasn't there. I looked down, and she was on the ground underneath the blanket, curled up in a tight little ball. And there was a perfect circle of light around her, protecting her. And I just put my hands up to the sky, and I said, thank you, thank you, thank you for protecting us. Thank you for the lesson. I said, I don't know what it is yet, but thank you. Now can you put angel wings on our feet and get us the hell off of this mountain? It took us 2.5 hours to walk up to that point that we were at. And I asked Spirit if we had to continue up to the top. And they said, no, you can go down. I'm like, then get them angel wings on us. We ran down that mountain, around and around the curves and down. We were jumping over fallen trees, and there were a lot of them. We were jumping over huge puddles of water. And again, as we were going down, of course, the edge of the mountain was right there. Never slipped, never fell. We were down the mountain in 20 minutes. Gotta love angel wings. When you need them, ask for them because they exist. I quickly changed clothes to get out of all my wet clothes, got Shannon in the car, and I knew we couldn't go back the same way we had come in because it came down. You had to go down and then back up because the arroyo was there, and of course by then it would have been flooded. So we decided to go out the other way that I had seen other cars leaving, which took us up out of where we were at, and it was a little flatter up there. We turned around, looked back at the mountain. You couldn't even see the mountain. The clouds were all black, and they had totally encompassed the whole mountain. And all you could see was the jagged of lightning coming down. I mean, a lot of it. And I was just like, holy crap, what was this about? So we drove back, and it was kind of cool on the way back, driving because it was pitch black out there. We did see a lot of UFOs zipping around, and I realized where they were coming out of. Superstition Mountains is not that far from there, and it's a so-called hotbed of UFO activity, but there were a lot that night. We made it back to Fountain Hills. I got Shannon's clothes dried for her, sent her home on her way, still thinking about what this was all about. So the next day, Serge called, and he asked me how my weekend went. I said, well, it was pretty quiet until yesterday, and we went hiking out on Four Peaks. And he was like, in weather like this? And I'm like, oh, hell no. It was way worse. And then I told him what happened. And he was like, wow. He goes, Spirit put you through a 4 elements initiation. And he goes, and you passed the first time. He said, they put me through it 4 times before I was able to pass it. So when somebody tells you that, oh, I went to a seminar over the weekend and I'm a shaman now. No, that's not how it works. Our souls deem it before we even incarnate. It's something we don't seek. I sure didn't. Have I learned a lot? Yeah. Would I want to go through the same experience? I don't know about that. If I knew the outcome was going to be the same, yeah. But they didn't tell me why I had to go, because they knew that they knew me well enough, because I was already kind of dragging my feet, that if they told me what they were going to do and put us through, I would have said, screw it. I'm not doing that. You're crazy. Well, it was either Tuesday or Wednesday of that same week. We had, it was either a full moon or a new moon, which we always did this healing ceremonies at the Peace of the Universe. And by the time I got there, Shannon was already there, and she was telling everybody about what had happened on Sunday. And she goes, man, if she asked you to go for a hike up a mountain with her, say no. And everybody else thought it was like something pretty awesome. And they were asking me how much I would charge to take them through something like that. No, I wouldn't charge anybody anything, because I would not do that to a person. But Shannon had vowed that she was never, ever going to go for another hike with me ever again. And she never did. It's like it scared her so much that she eventually did drop out of Serge's ministerial program as well, because she was not on that path. That was not her path to take, and it scared her. But when I look at these and look at some of the stories, some of the things that I have been put through, looking backwards, it's that 2020 vision. You look backwards and you see where it started, with grandma sitting up in her casket. I could see a dead person and she was talking to me and I could hear her. It's like freaked me out. To being pushed off the mountain by Sitting Bull to get me to move. And it got rid of the migraines. It got rid of the seizures. It led me up to meeting Surge by having that megaphone put in my ear to guide me. It was all orchestrated by Spirit. I did none of it. I just followed the clues. I listened. But now I also help others that are following that same path that maybe don't quite understand it yet, that it's not something we seek. It seeks us, it finds us, it trains us and hones us because our soul already knows the outcome. They know why we're here. So now, if people come to me and say, I'm having these weird experiences, I know what they're talking about, and I can guide them in the direction that is going to best serve them and the people who come to them for help, whether it be animals or people, because we're here to help both. They're living beings. So that is the 4 elements initiation. Thankfully, I passed the very first time because it is not something I would ever want to go through again. So we will see you soon in another video, or actually popping in later on that. And who knows, maybe by then this one here will quiet down and just come in and make an appearance to say hi instead of crying. He's kind of quiet now. So maybe he just wanted mommy's attention. So again, remember, walk in beauty, my friends. Walk the sacred path of love always.